Hello everyone, my name is Jeong Park and I'm a technology researcher at KOMSA. In this lecture, I would like to guide you through the greenhouse gas reduction policies in the maritime sector in South Korea. First, I will guide you through the current status of the climate change response in the country and political reduction measures, which are not only limited to the maritime sector. Among these political reduction measures, I will also briefly introduce the target management system applied in the maritime sector. Lastly, I will walk you through the ship emission management system, which enables to monitor greenhouse gas emissions and maritime sector management data. To get things started now, we will go through the current status of South Korea's response to greenhouse gas management. It was in 2009 when South Korea established goals and strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for the first time. The reduction target for 2020 was set at 30% compared to the BAU, which was the highest reduction target within the recommended international reduction rates at the time. In order to achieve the reduction target, a new law called Framework Act on Low Carbon Green Growth was also enacted, and the legal basis was laid. In 2014, the National Greenhouse Gas Reduction Roadmap, containing specific implementation plans, was announced. And soon after, before the UN adopted the Paris Agreement, the 2030 reduction target was set at 37% compared to the BAU. In October 2020, the government announced its vision to develop South Korea into a carbon-neutral country by 2050 through the 2050 Carbon Neutral Declaration. In addition, in compliance with the progress principle mentioned in the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, the 2030 reduction target was announced at 37% compared to the 2030 BAU. The raised target for 2030 has not been announced yet. Most recently, the P4G Seoul Summit was held in South Korea. South Korea has set such short, medium, and long-term greenhouse gas reduction targets and is establishing a national vision with detailed implementation plans to achieve those goals. Previously, we looked at the current status of South Korea's greenhouse gas reduction and climate change response. First of all, a legal basis must be prepared for all policies to be implemented, and the legislation prepared for this purpose is the Framework Act on Low Carbon Green Growth. The Act requires various policies to realize a low-carbon society. Among them, the Emission Trading System and MBO are the main means for national greenhouse gas reduction, and finally, the utilization of the international carbon market. In Korea, the Ministry of Environment oversees the climate change response, but the ministry of each sector is required to play a dedicated role considering the characteristics of different industries for responding to climate change in order to ensure growth without impeding industrial development. The shipping industry sector is managed by the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, among 5 ministries, and the shipping sector, MBO, which is being implemented to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, is also managed by the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. In addition to the MBO, the emission trading system is applied to the shipping sector, but since it was implemented from 2021, it is necessary to monitor the system for 2 to 3 years and observe the project results to then be utilized for a case study. In the next chapter, we will take a closer look at the target management system that has been implemented to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the shipping sector over many years. MBO is one of the political reduction measures from the 2020 National Greenhouse Gas Reduction Targets announced in 2009. It is a system that designates companies with higher greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption than the standard as target companies, sets reduction targets together with the companies, and manages to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption within the set target range. The MBO applies not only to the shipping sector but across all industries in South Korea. For now, though, I will explain what is implemented in the shipping sector. First, the government conducts a simultaneous survey every year in March to investigate whether a company should be designated as an MBO target company or not. Then it investigates the fuel consumption of ships for interport passengers and shipping companies with high emissions. In the case of the shipping sector, fuel consumption is investigated first, as over 90% of greenhouse gas emissions originate from the fuel usage. If the shipping company falls within the error range of the target company selection criteria, greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption will be investigated once again for the entire business site, including buildings and vehicles. About 800 internal port shipping companies and 2,500 ships are investigated each year. Companies identified to exceed the standards set for greenhouse gas emissions and energy usage are designated as target companies by the end of June. Based on the simultaneous survey data, as shown in the table here, a target company will be designated if its greenhouse gas emissions exceed 50,000 tons or 15,000 tons in the case of a branch, and/or if TJ exceeds 200 TJ for a company or 80 TJ for a branch. Companies designated as target companies are required to set reduction targets for the following year in collaboration with the government in September. The government sets goals in consideration with the target company's business plan and growth rate, as well as emissions estimate. The final goal is confirmed through the goal-setting consultative group in order to secure objectivity in the process. This consultative group is composed of experts in each field, and the target setting is decided with consideration to the management company's technological level and international competitiveness. This way, target companies that have set their reduction targets for September of the next year submit the implementation plan, which is a plan for managing and implementing the reduction targets by December of the next year through a system called NGMS. NGMS is a comprehensive national greenhouse gas management system that comprehensively manages greenhouse gas emissions not only in the shipping sector but also across all industries. Through this system, not only the target management system is subject to report emissions, but also the companies subject to the emission trading system. The year in which the goal setting and implementation plan was submitted is Y, so Y+1 is the implementation year to achieve the target goals. For 1 year, the target company must strive to achieve the goal, and the following year, Y+2, is the year of evaluation. By March of year Y+2, the target company is required to submit greenhouse gas emission and energy consumption reports for year Y+1, along with the statement and performance report to explain its reduction methods. The statements and performance reports are also submitted to NGMS. Finally, the government evaluates whether reduction targets have been achieved based on the statement and performance reports submitted by the target company by March. If the target company does not achieve its reduction targets, it issues an improvement directive. If the reduction target is not achieved for 2 consecutive years, the company will be fined. The procedure introduced earlier is presented in the diagram here. Once designated as a target company, the company is subject to the system for about 4 years from the designation date. Since MBO targets companies that emit less emissions than those subject to the emission trading system, it can be seen as a stage for preparation for the emission trading system. By having the MBO in the shipping sector, South Korea has provided reduction targets to shipping companies with high fuel consumption and encourages them to cut down emissions each year by increasing the mandatory reduction targets. KOMSA established the Ship Emission Management System to respond to stricter marine environmental regulations domestically and internationally. By utilizing the system, KOMSA is supporting the implementation of a global survey, annual fuel consumption survey by ship, and the implementation of MBO. KOMSA has enabled the entire process of implementing the International Convention on Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Reporting System, which has been named as IMO DCS for international ships. In addition, data collected through the implementation of international agreements and fuel consumption surveys are analyzed from various perspectives and are utilized for statistics. Moreover, the Ship Emission Management System is integrated with the platform to provide various content, such as domestic or foreign policies and regulations, and technical information for emission reduction to shipping companies and shipping industry stakeholders to help them prepare for stricter regulations. This is the system screen related to the implementation and support for domestic or foreign marine environmental regulations, which I previously mentioned. The left-hand side here represents information regarding domestically operated ships. First, the survey investigates annual fuel consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Second, MBO operation support that sets reduction targets for companies that emit large amounts of greenhouse gas. Finally, calculation of the amount of air pollutants per ship other than greenhouse gases. Looking at the right-hand side now, representing information regarding internationally operated ships. For ships with a gross tonnage of 5,000 tons or more, it includes a series of contract fulfillment functions, from reporting information such as annual fuel consumption, voyage distance, time to test, and IMO submission. In this presentation, I have introduced greenhouse gas reduction policies and management by objectives in the South Korean shipping sector and the ship emission management system to implement them. For the nation and government to respond to climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it is necessary to prepare nationwide goals, visions, and detailed implementation plans in order to establish strong policies to achieve these goals and to build systems for efficient data management. In this context, I have prepared today's lecture, so I hope it was helpful for you. Thank you for your time.